Oh, here goes, and welcome to the 131st episode of Throwback Hoops. Woody V's in the house, and as always, please follow this show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I'm joined by my main man, Robbie Clayton. How you doing, bro?
What's up, Woods? Great to be back. I know we've got a lot to look forward to with this NBL season. I think I was doing the countdown. I think it might be like 27 days away or something like that now. So we know that's going to absolutely fly. And we've got the Blitz coming up as well. So, yeah, really looking forward to chopping up with you today, my man.
Yeah, likewise. And we've got a little bit of a retro NBA theme going on with our jerseys today. So why don't you take it away for the audience?
Like, I think we briefly spoke about it today and said, let's do like a bit of a 90s theme. So I know you don't know the one I'm wearing today. So, look, I'll give it away before I stand up. But I'm pretty surprised after 131 episodes, Woods, that we haven't featured Allen Iverson. So wow. I thought it might be time to do that today. So I'll just stand up and show you the one I'm rocking today.
So for those who can't see, our audio listeners, Robbie's wearing the classic Nike Iverson jersey. I think we're looking at a late 90s. No, not late 90s. I mean, early noughties edition of the jersey, 2007 maybe.
Yeah, I know it's like the retro one for 1977 Philly. You know, they wore those sort of retro ones like that. But and you know, I love these jerseys, Wood.
They were released in the early 2000s. Those Nike. Yeah,
it was probably just before Nike lost the rights to Adidas sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, so basically this one's an Allen Iverson red Philadelphia 76ers Nike Rewind jersey. For those keen listeners, they know that probably the Nike Rewinds are my favourites. I don't have a lot of them. They're very hard to get and very expensive to get these days. But there's something about these jerseys, Woods. They're a really good fit as well. They're not some crazy length. They're good on the side, good on the length. They're stitched as well. You can tell the quality on them there. You can tell, just a very nicely put together jersey there. So, kind of surprised we haven't featured AI before, Woods. A little bit on Iverson. He was drafted out of Georgetown by the 76ers at pick 1 in the 1996 draft. Went on to have a Hall of Fame 14-year NBA career, so playing with the Sixers, Nuggets, Pistons and Grizzlies before finishing his career back in Philly in 2010. Look, what can you say about Iverson? He was a generational player, a must-see player. And his career, someone that I've always just loved watching the way he played, and someone I always thought was quite generously listed at 6 foot. There's no way he was 6 foot, right? That's like measuring on tiptoes, wearing shoes and stuff. So he's definitely one of the best little guys, I think, of our lifetime and perhaps all time there, I guess. So I'm going to read his accolades out, Wood. So I hope you're comfortable. Just take a seat because I might be reading some stuff for a while here. So he was Rookie of the Year in '97, MVP of the league in 2001. He was an 11-time NBA All-Star in 11 consecutive seasons, which I thought was pretty amazing there. Also 2 All-Star Game MVPs, a 3-time All-NBA first-team member and 7-time All-NBA teams in total, a 4-time scoring champ. This one kind of surprised me a bit, Woods, a 3-time steals leader, so that was a pretty good stat there for AI. And he was named to the Hall of Fame in 2016 after 914 games and a career scoring average of 26.7 points. So what an amazing career. Yes, he doesn't have the championship next to his name. There is a lot of greats that don't have that championship next to him there. So the answer, as he was fondly known, is now 49. So still feels like he's reasonably young there. Got a number of business interests, and he's also currently Reebok's vice president of basketball. So not exactly sure what he does there with that title, but it does sound pretty cool. So yeah, a little bit on one of the great little guys that we've seen, Wood. So what were your memories on AI's career?
I mean, he transcended the game of basketball. He was a cultural icon, wearing, baggy clothes and dressing all hip hop with his cornrows. He paved the way for other people to say, we can be ourselves. We can be that way and have personality. So I think he influenced a whole generation of young kids wanting to get into basketball, right? So what he's done for the game can't be understated, and we can't just say that what he's done on the floor is what contributed to the game. It's a lot of the stuff he's done off the floor. I think you'll recall we spoke to Michelle Timms on one of our early episodes, right? And I said, everyone knew who you were in Australia in the early 90s. You had the blonde hair, you were a cultural icon for us. Everyone recognized you in Australia. Yeah. I mean, Allen Iverson has that impact in the US. In the
100%. I was sort of thinking when I did the research, some of the moments I remember. Firstly, Woods, how tall do you reckon he would have been? 5'9"?
5'10".
5'10", yeah, fair call.
6 foot shoes.
No, exactly. Well, the things that I remember, firstly, the practice, we're talking about practicing, and that's like a famous all-time quote that I'm sure, most people would remember there. Definitely the step over to Lou in that final series. So, if I'm not mistaken, did Philly win that first game against the Lakers, and then Lakers just demolished them in the 4 games after that? So, that was Iverson's, obviously, one finals appearance and their best chance to get it. I also remember him playing for Detroit and wearing number 1. I just randomly remember that because it just looks so strange there. And look, I didn't sort of recall when I was saying about his accolades. There was definitely some controversial moments, right? There was controversy that started with him with that alleged fight in a bowling alley when he was still in high school. I think he actually got jailed for, and then later, basically, it found out that he actually wasn't involved like it was sort of told to be, sort of thing. There was definitely some controversy there. He did fight with a lot of coaches, and his career perhaps didn't finish as he wanted to. I think he might have had his last season of his career in Turkey. Then he played in that inaugural season of the Big Three, which, I'm a big fan of the Big Three there. But I do think, and you listen to those accolades that I read there, do you think perhaps people do sleep on him a bit? For a Hall of Famer, you don't hear him spoken about. That is an amazing resume I read out for him, right?
Absolutely. And maybe some of these other things that you mentioned, right, off-court troubles, and, not everyone was so welcoming to the guy with the baggy jeans and the cornrows, right? So maybe...
Ahead of his time, right?
Yes. So maybe that's the reason why he kind of gets swept under the rug. You also got to remember, him and Larry Brown, they have to be the two polar opposites. And they made that work, and they coexisted with that relationship and went to an NBA championship series. So credit must go to that team, Dikembe Mutombo, those guys on that team, right? So
absolutely. Maybe look for some of our younger listeners or viewers would, get on YouTube and look at some of his highlight mixtapes and packages there, because he was just an amazing scorer. I mentioned the stuff there. He could just score on anyone. It didn't matter if you try and put a more physical guy, a taller guy, bigger guy. It just didn't matter. He could get buckets on anyone there, and it was an absolute pleasure to watch him. So
who else was on that early 2000s team? You had Eric Snow, Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah, a bit of Theo Ratliff, I think, might have been there.
Ronald Carney, maybe.
Yeah, geez, that's going a deep dive there. Definitely remember Eric Snow because he looks so young on that team, sort of thing. But yeah, you're right. I think probably it wasn't the most amazing roster that they had there, but he just continued to build that team. Yeah,
the Kobe stopper, was he on there?
Nice. I don't know if he was on that team. But
no, maybe not.
Nice shout out to Ruben Patterson. I remember him with Portland more than anything. But nice. Sure. So yeah, a bit of a trip down memory lane with AI, and I believe you're continuing with this 90s theme today with a nice Sac Kings jersey.
Yes, one of his contemporaries, right?
Nice. The Woods are standing up, rocking the number 4 black Sacramento Kings Corliss Williamson jersey. Don't call him scoreless, right?
No, big nasty, man, big nasty, right?
It.
Did they cross paths, these two, at Detroit? They might have.
It's a good question, because I know Iverson, when he ended in Detroit, was traded for Chauncey Billups, so I know that team had started to break up a little bit at that time in Detroit, so possibly not. But
no, Corliss left in 2004. I think I think Iverson came a few years after that. But yeah, a bit about Corliss Williamson. Corliss Mondari Williamson. He's currently a basketball coach who serves as an assistant for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was born in Russellville, Kansas, in 1973. He was drafted 13th overall in the first round of the 1995 NBA draft. And he played for 4 teams and a career that spanned all the way from 1995 to 2007. As I mentioned earlier, he was affectionately referred to as Big Nasty. He received that nickname from his AAU coach when he was just 13. And, some of his accolades, I'll mention here, Robbie, that beautiful that beautiful Pistons teams of 2004, Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince, the Wallace boys. He won a championship in 2004 there on that Pistons team versus the Lakers, as you know. NBA Sixth Man of the Year in 2002. He was an NCAA champion in 1994. He was the NCAA Final Four Most Outstanding Player. And when I think of Corliss Williamson, I think of a guy that was an absolute dominant power forward at college. But then he came into the NBA a little bit undersized, 6'6", 6'7". You have that tweener issue where you're between positions, and maybe in today's NBA he would have probably had more of a place than he did in that time, right?
Yeah, there was a few of those guys going around at the time, wasn't there? Those guys that were big in college and just it wouldn't quite translate to the NBA game. One thing I remember about him was we've talked about before, ABC used to show those college games in the early 90s there, and I remember you'd find out about a week before who it was. So I remember one week finding out that Arkansas were on that week, and I was so excited. We kept on hearing about this Corliss Williamson guy, and was so excited to watch Arkansas play, and he actually had a real dud of a game. I remember I was so disappointed, but they obviously did end up winning the title. I remember Scotty Thurmond on that team, and he was such a good college sort of presence there. But yeah, look, he still had a solid career, didn't he? Like, it wasn't like he was an absolute bust. What pick did you say he was drafted at there?
13th pick.
So look, it wasn't like he was a top 3 pick or something like that. And that's perhaps why he did slide down a little bit there, just that little bit undersized. Didn't quite have the outside game for his size there. But no, still a solid career though.
Yeah, I forgot Scotty Thurmond was on that team, right? Yeah.
And classic jerseys as well, Woods. I know we've both got a few of those ones. I think of those black ones there. I've got like a Tyus Edney, I've got a Brian Grant, and maybe another one. They seem to literally put out a jersey of anyone that wore them for Sacramento Kings. They did some good marketing that year, so they still hold up well, those jerseys.
Awesome. All right, so let's do some NBL team previews. I know we've been saying it for a few weeks. We're going to get into it. So maybe let's kick things off with the Queensland teams, right?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm just going to bring up the Cairns roster. Do you want to sort of take the audience through what the depth chart looks like, who's coming in, and maybe I'll break it down a little bit?
Sounds good. So, of course, coached by Adam Ford there. So, look, the new players on the tight ends. We've got NBL1 East Star, Alex Higgins-Titcher. So, great to see him getting into the NBL from the Inner West Bulls. We've got Dylan Stith, Jackson McCoy, Cody, the Statman, your favourite Kyle Adnam-Woods, Kyron Galloway, Pedro Bradshaw, Rob Edwards, and Tanner Grove. So, quite a lot of new players there. Look, I guess the main players on that departed list there, of course, Bobby Klinkman was drafted and will be playing with the Pistons this year. Bull Quoll, who's a massive loss to them, going to your Kings.
Yep.
Patrick Miller has left, one of the imports. Sam Meninga, the Kiwis, to return to the Breakers, and Tajir McCall has also left there playing in Israel. So, look, quite a bit of movement there. Look, the depth chart, I know you'll talk about this a bit more, but we've got, I guess, a starting 5 of Armstrong, Edwards, Bradshaw, Wardenberg, and Grove. So, a pretty solid team. And look, I like some of those bench players as well. Jonah Antonio, McCoy could go well in his second. And I think a few guys with second chances there, right? So, guys like Jackson McCoy, guys like Kobe Statman there, even someone like Galloway. So, I don't mind what they've done there. And obviously, Gak as well is another new one. Did we have him on the incoming list there?
No, Gak's been on. Oh, yeah. Gak's been at Cairns for 2 years, man. He was there last season.
Remember? Oh, yes, it's his second year. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm getting mixed up with the other Gak. Yeah. So, yeah, what do you got for us? It's an intriguing lineup, I'd say.
Yeah, obviously they've got to be strong in recruiting their imports like every year, right? That's something that Taipans have relied upon. Maybe let me just start, before I jump into the imports, maybe I'll start with a guy like Dylan Stith, right? He arrived here 10 years ago in this country for a touring team, and he just was recognized. And then he started playing for the Melbourne Tigers in the Big V at the time, right? And I'm sure you're very familiar with him in NBL1 circles as well, Robbie. Mm-hmm. And he's played 15 NBL games for United over the years.
There's a real NBL1 link to this team, isn't there? When you look through that roster, there's 5, 6, even 7 guys that have sort of featured in that league, which is, again, good testament to the NBL1, but good chance for him.
Going to ask you about that actually in a second, but he's just received his Australian citizenship. So it opens up the door for him to play as a local. And at 32 years of age, when he came here a decade ago to Australia to get this opportunity, you got to be happy for the guy.
That's right? Pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And let's talk about some of the imports, right? The first one they signed was Tanner Groves on a 1-year deal. He's a 205 centimeter big. He spent 5 years in the NCAA, the first 3 of which were spent at Eastern Washington University. He completed his collegiate career as a 2-time college sports communicators All-American and became the first men's basketball player in Oklahoma history to be honored with a Big 12 Scholar Athlete of the Year accolade. So this guy's achieved a lot in college. He was at the Summer League for a while with the Oklahoma City Thunder, playing along the likes of Chet Holmgren. He's recently had some overseas stints in Poland and China. And I'll tell you what Adam Ford said about him. Tanner is a competitor. He's just built differently. He does all the dirty work and prides himself on not taking any possessions off. He sets hard screens, fights for rebounds and loose balls. He's a 6'9" pit bull with purse moves. He's a perfect fit for us and complements the bigs we currently have on our roster. So maybe I'll talk to you quickly before moving on to the next import about that situation with the bigs on that roster, right? You mentioned Gak, you've got Groves, you've got Wardenberg, Galloway can obviously slide to the 5 as well. Is there a bit of a logjam there, right?
Certainly a lot of bigs. I'm loving the quotes as well, Woods. I'm making it feel like my preview's not going to be as good. You're coming out with quotes from the coach and everything else like that. Maybe I'll throw it back to you with one of those questions. What are your thoughts on Sam Wardenberg coming into this year? Because, it's his third year now, isn't it? Thought maybe last year I was maybe expecting a little bit more from him after the way he sort of started there. I know they've got a lot of faith in him in Cairns, but look, I do think they can make these big guys work. But how do you see someone like Wardenberg this season?
I was very disappointed with him last year, right? He really regressed. And he was settling too much for open shooting threes and taking that outside shot. When in his rookie year, he was attacking the rim. He's putting the ball on the floor. He's a big man who's able to attack the rim, looking at the basket, right? Which is a unique skill set that he has. So hopefully, sometimes it's the pieces that are around you that dictate the way you play. So.
Hey, Woods, we should say no next star on this roster as well, so they could be in the runnings for, to get a next star before this season starts, which is interesting because they have, they obviously had a lot of success with that last year, didn't they?
Yeah, for sure. And I think Bobby Clintman was, working on Adam Ford was really good for him. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. So I guess the second import that they signed was Rob Edwards, a guy that they were looking at for years. Robbie, the timing wasn't right, and there wasn't an opportunity for Adam Ford in the front office, Mark Beecroft, and those guys to actually bring him on board. But they finally got their man. He's recently represented the Cleveland Charge, the Maine Celtics, and the Delaware Bluecoats in the NBL G League. Prior to which he played 12 games in the German basketball Bundesliga. Just another quote for you. Head coach Adam Ford says, much like Tanner Groves, he's had his eye on Edwards for an extended period of time. And he says, Rob first caught my attention in 2022 as his hard-nosed defender picking up full court in the G League. He got an NBA call-up and then had another successful season with Wisconsin the following year. Back then, timing-wise, it didn't work out for us, but it's an ideal situation for both parties now. He's 27 years old and is about to reach the peak basketball in his career. So, once again, they've gone for a Patrick Miller type, a guy that has put runs on the board. They've been looking at him for a while now, and they've finally got their man. So, the Cairns recruiting has always been really high quality, and they take their time and effort to actually choose their guy. And you think that Rob Edwards is going to come.
Woods, if we're talking imports, they've got just an amazing track record these last, pretty much since Adam Ford's been there, right? They've, last year, what was the guy that didn't play much? Maybe that perhaps, wasn't the greatest signing. I forget his name now, the import that.
Josh Roberts.
Yeah, Roberts. He obviously,
that's the first one they missed on.
Yeah, I think so, but they've nailed it. You're right. They like getting some of those older sort of, guys that will handle the ball and stuff like that. They don't sort of seem to have the young guys. But look, they've got a great young guy that will be able to handle the ball this year, right, in Taron Armstrong.
Yeah, so maybe let's talk about Taron Armstrong. Obviously, he was recruited to start last year, and Pat Miller was going to be his backup. During the preseason, Armstrong was injured, and Pat Miller was just playing quality basketball. So there was nothing that could be done there. He's now going to be given the keys to the offense. Is he ready?
I really think he is, and I think he's going to have a great year. I mean, he's someone that is on NBA teams' radars, this guy now. So I'm looking forward to see how he'll go this year. He seems like he is healthy coming into this season. He'll be definitely one to watch in the Blitz in the Gold Coast to see, is he really going to have the keys? I think he will. But yeah, I think he's up to it, Woods. I think he's going to be an exciting player for the Taipans.
Likewise, and point guards, they often have to learn on the job. Having a guy like Pat Miller last year to show him the ropes in his first year as a professional wouldn't have hurt him, right? He's going to be better prepared for it going into this year, right?
And I know, look, I sort of made a bit of a joke almost about Kyle Adnam with you not being his biggest fan sort of thing. I reckon someone like Kyle Adnam could help Taron Armstrong. Sure. I mean, Adam's a veteran of this league playing the guard position there. He could definitely sort of pass on some wisdom there.
He knows all the little tricks, how the game's officiated in this league. Yep. I think that's a big reason why Adam Ford brought him in.
Agreed.
And finally, let me talk about the final import. I didn't know much about this guy. I had to actually do some research. But the Cairns Taipans have signed Pedro Bradshaw. What a great name. As their final import ahead of the campaign this year. He's a 6'5". They say analytical darling as described by head coach Adam Ford. He joins after playing for the Charlotte Hornets in the Summer League where he averaged 12 points, 4 assists and 2 rebounds across 17 minutes a game. So he spent the best part of the last 3 years in the NBA G League. And another quote I got for you from Adam Ford. Pedro is going to have a big impact on this league. In college, he was an analytical darling. He had a healthy floor impact counter and a player efficiency rating, Ford said. He's 6'7". He's a 6'7" wing that picks up defensively full court. In the G League, it wasn't uncommon for him to pick up the point guards and use his length and speed to be disruptive. Now, this is saying all the right things, right? You've got a very versatile defender that can guard multiple positions, doesn't care about getting his own. He does whatever he needs for the team to be successful. So I think Adam Ford has recruited on character and team needs as opposed to going for three out.
We've spoke about that third import before, haven't we, Woods? That teams need. It's necessarily, not necessarily an absolute star that can put 20 points on the board. Someone that can play that that role, a defender, a no nonsense sort of guy, maybe like that. So it sounds like they might have got one in him. So I think that certainly they sound pretty promising, don't they? Those three imports they picked up. Yep,
definitely, and also all of the second chance guys and guys getting opportunities. You said Adnan Galloway. He really showed some signs in Adelaide last year. They could surprise a few people. So quickly, let me just throw it out to you. I know I didn't ask you to do this, but 28 games, how many wins?
I'm doing Brisbane after, and I've got them going under 50%. I think they're going to be pushing the 50% mark with that team. 28 games. Let's call it 13 and 15.
I said 15 and 13.
Yeah, but you're a bit of a Cairns homer, so you probably added one or two losses on there.
Cool, but we're pretty close. 13,
we 15. Are close, and Woods, definitely a big shout out to Alex Higgins-Titcher there. So he's been one of the great players in the NBL1 East, of course, playing for Inner West for these 3 seasons in the NBL1 East. He seems to have improved a lot every year. I'm surprised that the Kings maybe didn't have a look at him. I know he's practiced and worked out with them quite a few times there, but great that he's got the opportunity to go to Cairns. I think he's going to be a good player for them. He's certainly a great defender, moves really well, very athletic sort of a guy there that has improved his shot over these last 3 years. So I think that's a pretty good get for them as a DP player.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, there's an NBL1 feel to this roster. These guys have all got a chip on their shoulder, a point to prove, and sometimes that'll help. And finally, before we move on, there was one more thing I wanted to ask you. Jonah Antonio. Right, sneaky think that he might have a good year this year. Right, they need some shooting on that roster. I'm sure he might be an early candidate for potentially 6th man of the year on that team because someone's got to put out points. So
we could see definitely an increase in minutes for him this year. Right, he's shown some signs, hasn't he? We know the guy can really shoot the ball. I seem to remember getting really hot against the Kings in that playoff game in Sydney. I remember, was it last year, the year before?
Year
before. So looking forward to see how he'll develop there. I think he's a player that the Boomers were sort of almost looking at a few years ago, and he's kind of slipped a little bit there. But I think it could be a big year for him.
Breakout season for him. I'm predicting that. Okay, so I've just brought up the Brisbane roster. Can you see that?
I can. Yeah. All right. Looking forward to talk about him.
I'll just go through the depth charts and everything and to the people who can't see. So we've got for 24-25 Justin Schuller as the head coach, and incoming we got Deng Adel. I want to ask you about him. James Bateman, Jared Bairstow. Really nice to see him find a home. Josh Kunin, Keandre Cook, Kai Savage, and Toby Smith-Milner. Leaving the Bullets, we have Aaron Baines, Chris Smith, DJ Mitchell, Gabe Hadley, Matt Johns, Nathan Serby, and Shannon Scott. Just looking at the depth chart as it stands, we've got Bateman, McDaniel, Prather, Bannon, and Harrison starting. Does look like a pretty solid starting lineup there, Robbie. Off the bench, we have Mitch Norton, Isaac White. We've got Keandre Cook, Deng Adel, and Rocco Zikarsky. And then, third string, you've got Toby Smith-Milner, Bairstow, a few development players there. So maybe I'll throw over to you and give us your thoughts, Robbie.
So, look, I enjoyed doing my prep on this one, Woods. I find this team quite an intriguing team, right? So, and look, as we mentioned at the start, we're well under a month away from the season to start. So, I know they'll be raring to get out there. Look, the Bullets finished last season 7th with a 13 and 15 record, so the record that I predicted Cairns to finish this year. The previous season before that, they were 9th with an 8 and 20 record. So, they did improve by 5 wins there. So, 7th, and I think they were literally tied with the team that came 6th. It just came down to percentage of that from missing out on the 6th there. So it was a pretty solid season from them last year. I think it's going to be a bit of a new look team there. We saw the roster there. They've clearly lost their two big name players, haven't they? Of course, in Nathan Sobey, who's gone to the Phoenix, and Aaron Baines, who, as of 27 days before the season starts, is still a free agent and still hasn't retired. So not quite sure what's going on there. I'm surprised he hasn't ended up somewhere, right? So it doesn't seem like maybe he will at this stage. And look, obviously they let go of two of last year's imports in Chris Smith and your boy Shannon Scott there, as well as talented Aussie DJ Mitchell, who I think got a decent contract in Europe from memory there, right? So definitely a lot of turnover. I guess for me, the big one is some of these incoming local players. We will talk about Dan Adele in a sec there. Certainly filled up the team with a few role players, probably is the best way to describe them there, Wood. So guys like Jared Bairstow, Toey Smith-Milner, as well as former COE player Kai Savage there. So that's two NBL1 East players, Woods, we're talking about. And he joins another NBL1 East player in Rocco Zakarski, who I'm really excited to see. So definitely sort of filled up some of those positions with role players there. I know you wanted to ask about Dang Adele. So, yeah, what do you got for me about Dang Adele there?
I really like Deng Adele, and I just thought that Brian Gorgian wasn't the right coach for him. This guy has had a great standout college career. He's played in the NBA before. He's an athletic long wing. He has all the tools to be successful in the NBL, and I'm glad that he's getting another opportunity. And the Brisbane Bullets could do worse. It's a free swing here, right? They probably wouldn't have paid him too much.
No, I agree. I think it's a good signing. Like, this is a guy with NBA experience. As you mentioned, he had an amazing college career at Louisville there. Look, it was strange. You had the one season in the NBL with Illawarra. As you mentioned, it perhaps wasn't the right fit there with Brian Gorgian. I know he did have some injuries that season as well, so that's probably something that also impacted him a fair bit as well. But look, I think this is a guy with a great resume. I think he's going to really help Brisbane at both ends of the court as well. So definitely expecting him to be better in his second stint here. I think he could have quite a large role. I think, guys like him, he's been around a while, so you can consider him a veteran, and also guys like Casey Prather there. So I'm intrigued to see how he goes, right? So he's the one import that's returning from last year. I guess it was a bit of an asterisk, wasn't it, for his time last year? He came in late in the season. He was playing limited minutes there. Didn't mind what he showed there. He'd have to be one of the older imports in the league, right? I think he's turning 33 this year. We know, talking about resumes, what he's done in this NBL, and he's always a winning player there. So I think he's a good culture fit and a good team fit for the Bullets there. So I'm excited to see how he goes there. And look, I thought I'd talk a little bit about these imports, Wood. So perhaps, a little bit of an unknown commodity. So Keandre Cook, I guess what I found out about him, so he's a 27-year-old swingman, spent the past 4 years playing in Europe, is regarded as a really good shooter. So, I know Smith was a decent outside shooter for him, so that's probably an important fit for him there. James Bateman is also 27 years of age. So, they're kind of they're not quite veterans, but they're certainly not young guys. So a little bit of experience. He's also been playing in Europe. So he's a 27-year-old point guard. He's also spent the last 4 years in Europe as well. So I wonder if these guys have actually, crossed paths over in Europe there. So a little bit of unknown. That's probably the best I could say with those. I don't have any of those fancy quotes, Woods. You put me to shame with those quotes in the Cairns preview. But they'll be guys to really watch out for in this blitz that's coming up in Gold Coast there. Look, the highlight packages look good, but they probably all look good. But you're not going to submit a highlight package if you're missing a lot of shots. But, have you seen much of these guys?
Yeah, I've seen a few videos on YouTube here and there, read their draft profiles and things like that. Look, they do come with a bit of experience, a bit like Cairns. These guys are well-traveled. They're not coming in, as into a new professional contract. They've got some experience, so I think that's been taken into account. I just think that you look at that starting lineup you've got of Bateman, McDaniel, Prather, Bannon, and Harrison. And then after that, you got Zakarski, Adele, Cook, White, Norton. It just seems like it's a bit light. They just seem like they've put all their eggs into this Prather basket to be an absolute stud again, right? And take him to the promised land. And I just don't think I'll be happy if he proves me wrong. But I just don't think he is that guy that we saw with your Perth Wildcats over a decade ago now, right?
Definitely, it would be a decade now. And look, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that local talent you mentioned there, Wood. So, look, it's a bloody tall team, isn't it? Plenty of height with Rocco and Kiwi Tyrell Harrison there, who's continued to improve. Probably a big one for me, Josh Bannon. Look, he was, on NBA Summer League rosters this year. He's got some pretty high expectations. I think he was almost through his name up into the draft. Didn't quite happen for him there. I'll talk about about him in a sec. Sam McDaniel's another one to look out for. So he's coming off an MVP season in the NBL1 North. Also the Defensive Player of the Year in that comp as well. So he's a player that's, he's looking really good for a big season. I think he'll get a big opportunity on the team with him again this year. So let's talk a little bit about Rocco and Josh Bannon, Wood. So look, Rocco's going to have a lot of eyes on him this year. Perhaps, he'll be the one that you see all the NBA scouts watching. I've seen, some people say he could be a top 6 or 7 pick in next year's NBA draft, which would be massive for him there. I'm looking forward to see the continued improvement. I'm a big fan of him, Woods. I would have taken him over to Paris in that 12th spot there. Look, if you're going to take Ingles and not play him, why not take an absolute giant there that you could have plugged in and given him some spot minutes there? I want to see how he improves defensively there. I think obviously his offense is probably a little bit of a work in progress, but I want to see him going out there on the court and literally averaging 3 or 4 blocks a game and just making it impossible to score at the rack. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did do that.
You see, my question to you is, they had Baines, they had Zukowski, and they had Tyrell Harrison, right? That 3-headed monster last year at center. They brought in Toy Smith-Milner this year to basically replace Baines. Do you think that those minutes are going to see an uptick? Some of those minutes that Baines was previously getting.
I don't think Smith-Milner's going to be playing a lot of minutes, so I think he'll definitely eat up some of those minutes that Baines was taking there. It'll probably still be that 2-headed thing. I'm not quite sure you can play Harrison and Rocco together. In fact,
no way.
There's no way you could play them together, right? Harrison was shooting a few outside shots.
He made his first ever 3.
He was. So maybe that's something that they might surprise a few teams and play the Twin Towers there. But let's talk a little bit about Josh Bannon, though, Wood. So he had a really good season last year. Quite impressive player, right? He's one of those players that just racks up stats when he's out there. He's someone that can certainly hit the outside shot there, and I think that's definitely a part of his game that he's working on then. Maybe he doesn't have, NBA level athleticism would probably be the way I describe it, but he's got some great smarts there, and someone that I think's, his per minutes rebound average will be really good this year. I like the way he goes about it. What are you expecting from Bannon this year?
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with him last year. He just seems like a guy with a great head on his shoulders for a young man. Yeah, very mature. I think Justin Schuller and him have a good relationship. Him going over to Summer League. I mean, did he play much in Summer League?
Not a whole lot, I don't think. Yeah,
but I mean, being over there in that environment is only going to be better for him, and that experience is going to help him grow. Yeah.
Well, give me your predictions, Woods. I'll give mine after, but what are your thoughts on how this team will go? What will their record be after 28 games?
1 or 2 injuries to anyone here, with Prather getting injured or Harrison getting injured, they're done, man. So I'm going to go a few less than 500. I'm going to go 11 and 17.
So 11th could be like second last on the ladder, right? Maybe even last if you're banking on that.
Yeah. I mean, I had him about second last. When I did my predictions,
I mean, look, I do think Justin Schuller's team is up against it a little bit. I do think a lot of those teams that were around them on the ladder. So I mentioned last year they were 7th. So the teams 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, those sort of teams, I think they've all loaded up pretty well there. So you're right, a couple of injuries could impact them there. I'm expecting them to finish with a 12 and 16 record and probably have them around that 8th spot there. So look, they were 7th last year, 9th the year before. I'm predicting them to become 8th this year. So a couple of lean seasons for them, but yeah, it will be interesting to see how they go. And hopefully the coaching situation's a bit more stable for them as well now, right?
For sure. I mean, it has been since Justin Schuller took over. Yeah. You see, guys like Prather and Harrison are so important to this team. If they get injured, right? Yeah. That's straight away, Zukowski's going to play 30 minutes a game. And, Milner's going to come in. There's no one to really step in for Prather, right? Dengadell is an unknown. So that's what I worry about, yeah?
Yeah, agreed. So you reckon Cairns will have the better season of the 2 Queensland teams?
Yep.
Yeah. No, agreed. Interesting. That was fun doing that. So looking forward to do some of these other previews. Not quite sure we've decided who we're going to do next week, right? Are we going to talk about that offline, or do you know who we're going to do?
Yeah, we'll talk about it offline. We'll figure it out.
Right. We'll come up with something good, yeah.
All right, so let's do some quick hits, right? I wanted to talk about a couple of headlines in the news in this last week.
Yeah.
Roman leaving Tasmania, leaving the Next Stars program because he wanted to play footy. Is that right?
That was a bit of a shock. So shout out to our boy Paul Fox. I know he broke the news to me. I sort of woke up to a few messages from Foxy. I was like, wow, I was absolutely shocked about that. Yeah, shout out to Foxy. So, yeah, a little bit of a shock there. Some interesting comments being made. Perhaps they've sort of wanted him to do a few things and he wasn't doing. I think it's right. He wanted to play rugby, I think, with his mates in Queensland there. So probably not what you want to hear there. I know he does have some injuries at the moment as well. So, look, this is a guy that's been touted as a possible NBA draftee sort of thing. So he's got to try and work out, what his priorities are, I would have thought Tasmania would have been a great spot for him to go towards, playing under Scott Roth and having that championship pedigree there. But unfortunately, it hasn't worked out. I know the Jack Jumpers fans are really disappointed about that. There's a lot of them on social media. They're quite disappointed there. So it was a surprise, right?
Do you remember when Vladimir Radmanovic asked Phil Jackson if he could go skiing? And Phil
Slalom Vladi.
You're not going, man. You're not going. And then he went and got injured himself, right?
He did, yeah.
Okay, firstly, Roman.
That's a deep dive, Woods. I like that.
Why tell him, right? If you're going to go play a game of rugby, just do it, man. You know, like there's no need to. It's just a game of footy on the weekend, right? So, but I understand this is an investment. These clubs are investing in these young men, and they said, listen, this is your first professional contract. We'd like you to look after your body and come into training camp fit and healthy. If you're going to jeopardize that by going and getting tackled on the footy field, we don't want you doing that, and that's completely fair enough. Yeah.
And this is why I mentioned a team like Cairns. I think there's 4 teams now that don't have a next star on their roster now. So, look, our teams have both got next stars. They're out of the running. But, teams like Cairns, Illawarra, I'm trying to think who the other ones were now. Adelaide, maybe? I don't think you'd want to go to Adelaide. But, yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with Illawarra. If I had to give a prediction now, I know, look, Justin Tatum's got a pretty good reputation now of getting some talent there. So maybe that could be a good fit. But in saying that, I thought Tasmania would have been a great fit for Roman. So, yeah, pretty disappointing news. But we'll sort of watch this space, I guess.
Some red flags?
There's a few red flags. I think that's come up, what are we, less than a month before the season. This has sort of come out now. And a few almost character sort of questions there by some of the Jack Jumpers brass there. So, yeah, perhaps, and hopefully he can sort that stuff out.
Let's see how it plays out. He's a young man. He's going to grow up and mature. So, wish him nothing but the best. All right, so let's move on. Paddy Mills. Now, we thought that his NBA career was coming to an end. We were talking about him potentially coming back to Australia, playing in Japan, etc. But obviously, his relationship with Coach Will Hardy at Utah has meant that he has signed a 1-year deal with the Utah Jazz to be a, let's just say, player come coach in the locker room. Would you say that's what he's been asked to do?
Absolutely. Look, I thought this was good news in general, wasn't it, Woods? I've got to say, I was trying to do the thing where I was going to get a jersey of every team that Paddy played for. It's starting to get a little bit hard now. I must admit, I know you got the Hawks one, Miami was there, now Utah. So I know we both got that Portland Paddy jersey, which is a great find that we've got there. But I was pleased to see it. Like you, we were wondering maybe, was Japan in his future maybe, and then maybe Australia after that. And look, you're absolutely right. It's definitely a leadership and mentoring type role he's got there, as we've seen at every stop. He's someone who's absolutely loved and adored by his coaches and teammates there, which just shows what a great character he is and someone that you want in your locker room, right? So that's a 1-year contract, I believe. It wouldn't shock me if he gets another contract with another team after this, or even a contract extension with Utah there. So on the court, Woods, I'm not entirely sure we will see a whole lot of Paddy, just to be honest there. Perhaps some spot minutes with the second unit. And we saw he can still definitely put some points on the board in that Olympic campaign. But on the other hand, there is defensively, Woods, I've had some concerns about it for a while. We saw, some issues in that FIBA game where you do see some more zone defenses and that. Playing in the NBA where there's a lot of man D and stuff like that, I can see guys just, wanting to just take him on, Paddy Mills, like mismatch sort of thing and try and get the ball to him. So that's my concern there. But look, he's probably not being brought over to the Jazz as a player. Like you said, it's more of a coaching type role, right?
Well, 2 things. Keontae George, young kid over there. He's really going to benefit from having someone like Paddy, right?
True.
Secondly, do you think John Collins is going to join Paddy's coffee club? I think he'd be in that inner circle, right? Some of the older guys will go for coffee on that Jazz team. You know how Paddy brings the coffee club to every team he goes to, right? Yeah,
John Collins is a good teammate as well. So those two will probably hit it off there. So yeah, good to see though, isn't it? Maybe one of us will have to get that. Get that Utah jersey. I quite liked him in Miami with that random number he had. Was it 88 or something like that? I know you've got the Hawks on there, so maybe one of us will get a Utah jersey. But yeah, shout out to Paddy for getting another role there, right?
Yep, really happy for him. This will almost definitely be his last season in the league. So let's enjoy him.
Never say never, right?
Yeah, never say never. All right, NBL1 come to an end, man. Do you just want to give the viewers a quick...
Yeah, definitely. So let's put a bit of a bow on the season. So, yeah, the NBL1 Nationals took place in the Sunshine Coast on the weekend. So, the teams from all over Australia that won their conferences, plus Knox, who were the men's defending champs from last year, and Ballarat were in it. So, in the men's, it's Knox going back to backwoods. The Raiders beat Mackay 87-84 in a really exciting game. I watched all this one on KO there. So Knox were led by Kyle Bowen, someone I've had the pleasure of meeting and commentating when he was with St Mary. So he was the grand final MVP with, how's this for a stat line, 24, 15 and 2, as well as 3 steals and 2 blocks. Interesting one about this, though, Woods. He was basically the only NBL player allowed to suit up in this tournament there. So there's been a few people complaining on social media, let's just say that. We've seen it every year now, the NBL players. So guys like all those Mackay guys that I've read out in the last few weeks, guys like Blanchfield and Isaac White. And it's a bit unfortunate, right? So these guys play the whole season. They get the right to play in these NBL1 Nationals there, and then they can't play. They're NBL guys there. So I do think that's something they've got to sort out. Angus Glover was another one playing for Eltham that wasn't allowed to suit up there after being so good in their final series in the NBL1 South. So not quite sure what the answer is there. Is it, perhaps starting the season a little bit earlier and making sure there's at least a month for these guys to play? I'm not quite sure why Kyle Bowen was allowed to play that once. He's obviously a contracted player for United there. I meant to reach out to our girl Squin, actually, who did a great job commentating. She actually had a really touching post-game interview. Not sure if you saw it, Wood. So Anzac Rosetto, the former Southeast Phoenix player there, so he was he had a really big game for the Raiders in that final there. So Squin interviewed the big Kiwi afterwards, and he basically broke down in tears and sort of was talking about family and other stuff like that. It was a really touching interview there, and Squin handled it really well. So shout out to her there, and obviously for Anzac for showing his feelings and everything like that there. So yeah, back to back, which I thought was pretty cool for Knox there. So in the NBL1 women's final, a big congrats to Waverley Woods after probably, let's be fair, an absolute demolition of fellow NBL1 South team and last year's champions Ballarat. The Falcons had a hard-to-believe 97-49 win. So an absolute demolition, as I said there. Waverley were led by finals MVP Bet Cole, who finished with 33 points. So she had an amazing tournament all round and was a deserving winner there. So look, all in all, I think it was a good Nationals in Queensland. It was run very well. I like the fact that they do it over Friday, Saturday and Sunday there. Perhaps they need to sort out the import thing a little bit there. That has happened all 3 years, so it wasn't like it was a surprise this year. But NBL1's now done and really looking forward to an exciting 2025 season, which isn't far away. My commitments are still going to continue this week, Woods. I did mention I'm actually commentating the women's Waratah final on Sunday, so that's a great honour to have that. So obviously Waratah is kind of the feeder thing to NBL1 there, and looking forward to it. I don't know who's the matchup's going to be yet. The semi-finals will take place on Saturday, but for anyone in the local area in Sydney, come down to the Hills Basketball Stadium in Castle Hill and watch some great Waratah action as well.
And good work, Robbie. Another great season by you behind the microphone, man.
Thanks, mate. Looking forward to season 4 in the NBL1 East. I can't wait already.
And this just came up on my phone. Wally Bells, NBL1 alumni, signs in Switzerland. You know that?
Interesting. No, I hadn't seen that. And look, he was really putting up some good numbers. They would have had a pretty good highlights package to put out with him after that season he had with the Sydney Comets there. So, look, good to see he's getting a spot there. Would have been nice to have seen him stay local, but, go over and do your thing over there, Bawali, and, hopefully it all goes well for him.
Congrats, Bawali. All right, so shall we do some classic packs?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right, so I've got some new packs coming. Right, so we've got 3 options today, Robbie. I
like the options.
2021 Panini Chronicle draft picks. There's only 5 cards in here, but they're all draft picks. Okay. Right? We have the classic long NBA Jam session card, the long ones.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have the sleeves to put them in, but right?
I do have some sleeves somewhere of those. They're always hard to find, the Ultra Pro.
Yeah, I'm looking on eBay online. I couldn't find them anywhere. And then finally, I've got these random wild card collegiate cards. Have you seen this pack before?
What year is that?
It's got no year on it.
Really?
It's got no name, nothing,
Let's open that one, given it's such a mystery, Woods. Who knows what we'll find? There could be some guys that neither of us know, but let's open that one. We'll save the jam session once when you get the sleeves to put the big ones in, or I can hook you up a few of them, but let's do it.
Yeah, if you can find some of those.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I'll have a look. Yeah.
So I've got about another 2 packs of those open that are just sitting in a pile with nowhere to put them.
They're nice cards, those, actually.
Yeah,
the
they're great
ones. For those that don't know what we're talking about, they're double the length of a normal card, I would have thought.
Yep.
They're huge, but they're nice.
Length.
Nice big pictures on them and stuff, yeah.
Okay, this is going to be very difficult because I don't know half these guys.
Interesting. I was wondering about that, yeah.
Okay. I know about this guy. Okay, hold on.
This could be interesting.
Mate, I'm just going to quickly go through these. And I honestly do not know who any of these people are.
Oh, no, Jesus.
Yeah.
This might not be the greatest choice. Do you know any of them?
Richard Dumas.
Well, you just give me the clue for that one, so you've kind of ruined that one. Yeah. Oh, so that era in the 90s, right? Okay.
Yeah, Richard Dumas, Rick Fox.
Aren't you supposed to be asking me to guess these? Now you're giving
those are the only 2 that have ever
really?
Amounted to anything. All these other guys probably never even made it.
Well, why don't you read me the rest? Maybe you open that Panini pack, Woods, the one with the newer guys. Right. Who else is in that pack, though? At least there might be some names that I maybe remember there.
Okay. So Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
Demetrius Calip. I know who that is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Joe. Duke, right?
Yeah. Joe Alaukas. I know who he is.
I know him, yeah.
Rick Fox. Richard Dumas. Ramon Rivas.
From Seton Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was a teammate of Andrew Gaze.
Oh, yeah, he was too. Yeah.
Yep.
John Pinoni.
No, don't know him.
Terence Stansbury.
Oh, I know him. Yeah, he was. I know he was a high flyer. That guy, he could certainly get up.
Temple.
I think he might have been in a dunk comp. I think maybe from memory.
Pete Myers. I guess we know Pete Myers. He went to the Chicago Bulls, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Chad Gallagher.
Don't know him.
And then another Pete Myers.
So these are the ones. So 2 of him in the same pack.
Yeah,
how's the quality control there? So I think I mentioned when you said that offline was I do have an Andrew Gaze card from that particular series there, but they were a random series of cards. So all right, this is only a small pack as well. So let's see what we've got here. Hopefully, some actually known players.
All right, legend. I really like this kid. Got drafted eventually by the Washington Wizards. Probably hasn't been in the best environment for his game to be taken to the next level. White boy. What else can I tell you about him?
Denny Avio?
He went to Gonzaga, I think, from memory. He was drafted in 22, I think.
Not Garrison Matthews. You know, he would have given a Hawks clue on that. Nah.
He's Corey Kispert.
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, these are these rated rookie ones that I like, Woods. If you get a good one of these, let me know. Yeah, you're right. No, he's someone that could still find a home in the league.
How good is this? This is like a tribute to the old NBA hoops cards that we used to open back in the day, the 1991, right?
Mm.
Oh, man, it's the exact copy. Oh, this is awesome. This guy went to Baylor University. Defensive beast. We would have liked to see his offensive game develop a little bit more than it has at Sacramento, but I think he's going to have a good NBA career.
Davion Mitchell.
That's
with the Raptors now. Yeah, that's a nice looking car, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit of a flashback from back in the day.
Look at that.
Looks identical, doesn't it? Yeah, nice one. So what are these called again? Panini what?
These are called Panini Chronicles draft picks.
Interesting. Yeah.
Tell me about that trade, Davion Mitchell.
I think it was a free agent signing, wasn't it, that Toronto got him with?
No, he's still
was
in
a trade
contract. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, possibly. No, I'm not sure who they did trade back. But, yeah, I think he's a decent player.
Yeah, definitely. Love this guy. OKC, can put up buckets. Often confused with his namesake, who plays for the Clippers.
Trey Mann.
And he was went to college where? Gator, baby, Florida.
Okay, nice. Yeah, no, he's a solid player. He's with Charlotte now, I think, isn't he? He's in that trade late last year, yeah.
Never seen a shot he doesn't like. I mean, this is the original irrational confidence guy in this league. He went to LSU, pretty much. He'll get a Nick Young stat line if he wants to, but he's a straight up walking bucket. Yeah,
Jordan Poole.
No, yeah, but cut from that cloth. From that cloth. Okay. Plays in the Eastern Conference, right?
I Nice.
He was Paddy Mills' teammate for a while. Steve Nash and him did not.
What number?
24.
24.
Steve Nash, when Steve Nash was coaching.
Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, man. He was one of those players I kept on thinking about picking up in fantasy last year because he put up crazy numbers and he just wouldn't do anything for like a month after that. So, yeah, he's an interesting player, isn't he?
Unfortunately, we've got another Corey Kispert.
Oh, wow. Interesting. What's that one? Is that like an insert type one or something?
Yeah, not really. It's just a... No, not really. Yeah, I don't know. But they're nice.
Interesting. Shout out to Corey Kispert.
Yeah. All right, I'm sorry. That was pretty underwhelming, those 2 packs.
Yeah, it was okay. Look, the first pack was definitely underwhelming, just Richard Dumas and Rick Fox. But no, I didn't mind that second one sort of thing there. So look, I'm glad you got some cards on the way. Maybe it'll be a jam session pack next week.
I'm surprised you got Ramon Rivas. Very well.
You like that one, did you?
Yeah.
Nice, yeah. No, definitely a good teammate of Gazy there. So nice, that was fun anyway.
Yep. All right, so thanks, Robbie. Great episode. I guess before we wrap things up, do you want to take the audience out with where we can be found, all that jazz?
I'd love to, mate. So, yeah, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We can be followed on X at Throwback Hoops, Instagram, throwback.hoops, and email address throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Also, if anyone wants to support us on Patreon, just go to the Patreon site and type in Throwback Hoops. It'd mean a lot if you were able to pledge a couple of dollars there just to help with some of the costs that we incur bringing this podcast out every month. But, yeah, we really appreciate everyone's support and everyone for tuning in.
Yes, thanks. And I think we'll continue these team previews next week. We'll have a few guests coming on to do these previews with us, Robbie, right? So
definitely looking forward to it. I must admit, even doing a bit of research on the Bullets this week, I'm like, man, I can't wait for this season to start. And look, every team's 0-0 at the moment, so every team's coming in with high expectations there. But I think it's going to be a really good NBL 24-25 season.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Any final thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, NBL1's done. So I guess it's that real focus now for the NBL to start. Look, before you know it, the NBA preseason will be here as well. So it's certainly an exciting time of year coming up.
And Supercoach is ready. So,
yes, I saw that. I'll set up a league there. That's going to be an exclusive invite this year. I know we had a lot of people that wanted to join last year and we ran out of spots. So I'll be setting that up and look out for an exclusive invite if you're getting invited to the comp this year.
For sure. So from Robbie and I and the whole team at Throwback Hoops, until next week, take it easy.